Or when they arrive.
You can also click no answer.
I'll stay out of it for now.
Hello, Sophia, Julia, Razan, welcome. Good morning or good afternoon. Do let us know in the chat where are you tuning in from. You're just waking up. Is it afternoon for you? The music you hear in the background, you have full control over the volume at the bottom of your screen. So you can play with that if it's too loud. Good morning, Sophia. And I'm just thinking we'll warm up our brain. It's morning for me as well. So it's 9 in the morning. I'm starting my day with Nicole and with everyone else here. So I brought a bit of a brain warm up. If you could have everyone's attention for 60 seconds, everyone in the world, what message would you share with the world? It's a loudspeaker. The poll should pop on your screen, and feel free to let us know what is one message you would like to get out in 1 minute to the whole world. Everyone's listening. Let me know. There's always really interesting and sometimes very fun things coming out of this. Okay, Sophia, where are you tuning in from? Julia, Razan, tell us in the chat where are you joining us from? Hey, Nor. Europe is waking up. Well, Nicole and Polly and Keith, it's evening for them. We've got Stockholm on the map. Beautiful. Okay, take your time to share a message with the whole world. I'll kill the music here. Welcome, everyone. If we haven't met before, my name is Anne Maria. I'm leading the Butter Community Project, and I am very, very excited to bring you these show and tell series for the community for the first time. This is the third one we're having with Nicole today, and the previous two were a blast or a success. We've been learning a lot. I really like this format of behind the scenes, letting us in all the secrets, the lessons learned, the good, the bad. We often see polished products being put into the world, and I think that's great. But it's really exciting to learn what goes through the brains of the people that are designing that experience, and also how many iterations did they had to go through before reaching that polished product. So that's what we're going to be exploring today with Nicole. Before I give her the word to introduce herself and take it away, I do want to mention that these sessions are being recorded. We're sharing them on YouTube. Cameras on or off, it doesn't matter. Feel free to use the chat. We'll have the opportunity to deep dive into questions and conversations at the end of the session. You can pop those in the chat as they come to you, and we will surface them at the end. Now, Nicole is bringing over 25 years of experience in both community engagement and also facilitation projects. She's a recent co-author of the book Facilitating Deliberation, Practical Guide, with her fellow MosaicLab directors Keith, Greaves, and Kimbra White. She brings an absolute passion for genuine engagement to her work and believes people really can solve complex problems if given enough time, information, and a great process. Nicole, I'm so happy you accepted my invitation to be with us today. I'll kill the poll here. No one really wants to showcase, to broadcast a message to the world. That's okay. Missed opportunity right there, folks. Don't worry. That's fine. We'll try next time. Thank you for being here, Nicole. The mic is over to you. Take it away.
Thanks, Anna Maria. It's a privilege to be here. I would love to see people's faces if I could. I know some internet is a bit dodgy in some places, but it'd be lovely to see people's faces. Yeah, right. We've got, I think, about 15 or 20 minutes. Hello, Noah. How are you? To kind of natter here about design and our approach at MosaicLab about how we bring together both online and in the room processes. Now, we are a recent convert to Butter, so and not very proficient in Butter. So I'm not going to talk about anything to do with that. I'm going to talk just generally about design and principles and what that means for the way we do our work. I do have slides, so I am going to share them. There is a little moment in the slide preso, which I'll just warn you, Anna Maria, we'll just turn off the recording just because there's a photo in there that I don't want shared more broadly, if that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
But the rest of it is all cool, and I'm really open to stopping and answering questions for a bit too. I know there's some time at the end, Anna Maria as well.
Yes.
So let me kick off. I'm just going to get my screen up. So MosaicLab is the name of our little organization. And I'm just going to flick through a little bit, tell you a little bit about us, and then get into the whole thing around design and what we do. So just to start with, we are a team of about 13 independent facilitators. And our motto, if you like, that sits underneath all that we do is to support deep conversations and building democracy in society, in whatever setting that is. And I wanted to give you just a little bit of a feel for the sorts of things we do. This is a massively busy slide. But if you can, whoa, there's lots of fire going off there. We do a whole heap of stuff in the top left-hand corner around deliberative democracy, which is what Anna Maria was just mentioning. We have a very strong passion for that work, and it's because it's very high influence processes that kind of gives people a chance to decide important issues related to them. It could be anything from how do we want to, we have an obesity problem, how do we want to eat better? How do we want to take on nuclear waste in a particular state in Australia? Or it could be our local government has been dismissed. How do we want to be governed by a future government? So it's quite broad, could be anything. And so we really lean into that space, and hence the book that Anna Maria spoke about. But we also do a whole heap of work just facilitating really good conversations. And they could be about health, they could be about energy, water, it could be about gender equality, it could be about a circus. It's very, very diverse. And the sort of topics and organisations are diverse as well. We work predominantly across Australia, but have dabbled in a few international projects as well, particularly in the deliberative space. So that's us. It's a little bit about us. We love research and we love sharing information, and hence it's really exciting to be here today. Now, today, the whole purpose that Anna Maria spoke to me about was to give you a feel for how we design and deliver workshops. So we're going to go through that, and I'm going to talk about both in person and online, and sort of just give you a bit of a feel for what the principles are that sit underneath our design and approach. Now, to get you going, I'm actually going to get you into a tool that we use when we're online. And what I might do is even, because I'm super sonically clever, I'm going to get, working my way through Butter. I'm going to get you to a QR code with your phone. Or if you want to open up another browser on your internet, you can put in join.groupmap.com. And when you get there, you need to put in a code. That's 18735D1C7. Now, this is a tool we use both in the room and online. And when you get there, as you've just had a sneak peek, after you've added your name and clicked next, you should see a picture that looks like this. This is our group map. and we're asking to see people have all coming in there now. That's fantastic. You can click anywhere on that screen, and the question I've got for you is, which number llama or llama, Dalai Lama, is resonating for you today? Pop your name next to where you type and just give me a feel for, how you're feeling today and coming into this session. Now, I'm sharing this because this is a tool we use. So I'm hoping that everyone can get in there and type your name in, even on your little phone. And what I might do is share with you what that looks like back on the screen. I'm just going to stop sharing. And again, I'm telling you, I'm new at Butter, so just give me a few little moments to get this right.
You're doing awesome.
This is Group Map Live that I'm showing you now, and you should be seeing that on your screen. And you should be able to just click on there and be able to add your name. But I can't see anyone else's names. Yeah. So is anyone having trouble?
I see them on the mobile, but I don't see them on the screen you're sharing, Nicole.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Let me just stop my screen sharing because I might have not shared the right screen. So
yes,
let me do that again.
I just thought about that.
And that's me learning about Butter and all things.
That's okay.
Chrome tab. Yeah. No, I'm not going to be able to show it on my screen. Sorry, I'm new at Butter, but I'm hoping you're seeing it on your phone, and I can see that we've got some lovely llamas that are sticking their heads through the fence. I can see Anna Maria and Sophia. You're on your back and relaxing a little bit this morning or this evening. This is a tool that we use a lot in our online sessions. And it's all about, and it's not just this, like we can do fun things like this. We capture serious data. We get people rating things and voting things. We group things. We do a whole heap of activities in this tool. And so I just sort of wanted to share one of the online tools / in the room tools that we use when we're out in facilitating workshops, just to give you a bit of a feel for that. That's a great Australian invention, Group Map, which we enjoy playing with a lot, but only became sort of familiar with it as a result of COVID, even though that tool was designed for in-room facilitation. So it's changed the way we do things when we're in the room as a result of our COVID experiences. So let me get more into a bit of design and share with you a little bit more about the sort of things that sit behind the work that we do. So there's our llamas. Okay. This is what our facilitation used to look like when we were, pre-2020. This was it. We were out in the room. We were using, lots of little bits of paper and circles and microphones, and people were in clusters. And then the last few years and before 2023, 22, it looked a lot like this. Now, you all know that. You're in this field. We saw those sorts of faces. It changed a lot in that time, right? And we all learned a lot of skills. And now we have a little bit of this going on. Like, this is hybrid in this new world, like this tiny little person on a tiny little screen in a room full of other people. Or even this. We haven't got a name for this yet, but if you've got one, and what we're looking at there, if I just bring my mouse over, this is, still loading. This is myself and another co-facilitator up on the screen, and everybody else in the room. So facilitators are hybrid. Keith was in the room, my colleague was in the room, but there were 2 other facilitators online. So it's not just participants that are hybrid, it's facilitators that are hybrid in our new world. So if you've got a name for that, we'd love to know. And workshops are the most common and flexible facilitation method in that we've got. So we've got loads of different workshops that we run. And we have underneath those workshops a set of really strong principles that we think underpin how everything should be done when we run a workshop. Everything from the planning through to independence and neutrality, which is massive, group responsibility, information management, kind of those aspects of respect and transparency underpin all that we do. So when we're designing, we're thinking about these principles. And so this becomes kind of a core part of how we start to plan. And then that gives us a sense of the key features that need to be in the room when we're running in-room sessions, the sorts of things that in real life need to underpin the way we do our work. Now, some of those things are really obvious, like when we run processes, there are no tables in the room, other than tables on the side. There are some other things that you might see on this screen, which I would actually love to hear from others here about what they notice. What are the sorts of things that stand out about the way we use data, or the way we set up a room, or the way we might display things that stands out for you. I'd love to hear if anyone wants to come off mute. That'd be great, because it's always nice to hear people's voices. Anna Maria, you got your hand up.
And Noyer also has his hand up, but his real hand. I have my digital hand up.
Noah, come off mute.
Noyer. Noyer. How do we pronounce your name? Tell us.
It's not a very international friendly name. It's Noor. It's in Arabic.
Noor.
But nice to meet you all. So thanks, Nicole, for the presentation so far. What I see is a lot of space in between the different chairs and the artifacts. I'm not sure if that's on purpose or people should yell to each other to speak. But that's
no. We, as I said, we don't have tables. We do bring tables in occasionally, and if they are, they're very small tables. We don't have table facilitators. We are all about democratizing the process, which means that participants are put in the driver's seat for each and every step, where the pen is in their hand. So we have a lot of, if you notice over on this table over here, we have a whole heap of templates or materials. So we use things like clipboards instead of tables, and hand out materials so that it's really clear what we're there to do, what the question is that we're trying to answer at that point in time. We do clusters of chairs. So we, like 4 people is a standard size for us. 6 would be a lot. 10 never happens, kind of thing. Whereas I know a lot of other facilitators have like 10 people at a big round wedding table, and that is not something we do when we design processes. And then if we're not in clusters, we're in a big plenary in the room. We lay out our materials ready to hand them out for any session, and we just have really clear direction, simple slides to tell people what we're doing in that moment. So we do a lot of interactivity. People mix and move. You'll then notice this lovely picture with Murphy sitting in the middle of it, not my dog, but a very close friend. We're very reverent with data. When people give us input about anything, we treat it like gold and lay it out in a way that shows we respect this. It's not just chucked on the floor or chucked on the wall. It's got pattern to it. It's got, a reverence to it that says this is important. What you've done is important. And we will then scribe where best we can. This is a piece of my work of actually doing some sort of graphic representation if we're writing things. So not everything's digital. We'll actually do some physical writing in the room as well. Noah, did you want to come up?
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, and maybe I'm just imagining things, but is this like a literal and figurative way to remove boundaries then in between?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So true. I've actually used that term, Noah, of tables are like walls. And if you set up a room that has, tables, people set up camp, right? They put everything down and they lay out their laptop and they sit there and they're there all day and they're never shifting. And our whole objective here is mix, 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 mix. We want people to have met everyone in the room by the end of the day. And we want them to have expanded their thinking about something because they've sat next to somebody they wouldn't ordinarily sit next to. So the whole objective is to diverge, expand people's thinking. Anna Maria.
I just have a quick question. Maybe you're going into it later. Why are the groups kept at ideally 4?
Yeah. Great question.
Because I know that sometimes I know other facilitators, they like go up to 8 and that's okay. 7, 8, 6.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
It's all about people not hiding. So, personally, I love groups of 3 because nobody can hide in a 3 and it's still a group. 4s is okay because you're getting a little bit more diversity. But as soon as you bump, and we do 5s at times, maybe 6, but never, like it gets way harder when you get above that because people will sit back and hide and not contribute. And our whole point is we want people to sit forward, be a part of that conversation. And we literally say those words. We say, if you're the sort of person who steps in and you're leaning forward all the time, now lean back and let somebody else in that group come forward, and ditto the other way, so that you're getting that diversity, really apparent in your conversation. And then I just wanted to quickly move to online sessions and how we use those. And, in getting prepared for today, I really noticed that it's very hard to give you pictures for the online experience. It's so much of it is this picture, just flat pictures of people on a screen, but there's so much more that sits behind it. So I've tried to do a few snips to show you what that looks like. And I'll be quick, I promise. Anna Marie, I know my time's running out. First of all, we have kind of like 7 core principles about online and how it makes it sing. So that whole thing about presence, framing, delving, like you've really got to use your spidey senses to see changes in people's demeanor, like that little hand that Anna Maria noticed in her before. Those sorts of spidey sensor, visuals, listening, really focusing on pace, creating an ambience and setup that is for online, and really thinking about how you collect the data in a really clever way in an online setting. So here's a sneak peek to some of those things. Like this is a picture of a couple of really important pieces to the online. On the right-hand side with all those alien faces, this is actually a reprogression, if you like, of my own setup at home. This is what it looks like. I have massive screens. I'm actually not at home at the moment, which makes me a little bit more wobbly because I am in a hotel room with many bits around me. But I have massive screens, and I use every single bit of floor space on those 3 screens. There is nothing missed. I've got WhatsApp open. I've got my breakout rooms open. I've got the chat line open. I've got my PowerPoint slides up. I've got group map up. I've got, WhatsApp is the way we communicate when we're online as a facilitation team. And if we're in the room, in a big room, we'll also do that there. The left picture is a picture of my colleagues who just on the weekend were doing an online session, not at their home base, in a hotel room, together in the space and trying to make it work. But, you got to understand the gear is super important to making that work. So that's an important piece to it. This bit, I think, sounds really basic, but it's absolutely important to what we do. We have naming protocols. So we might have observers in the room who aren't participants from an organisation. So we use OBS underscore their name to make sure we can keep them out of spaces or make sure they're not, so we're constantly renaming people in our space. We put SPK underscore for speakers. We also use numbers or letters to make sure we can mix people up and make sure our processes work, like when we run a speed dialogue or we, mix people around in order for them to share data. So naming protocols are absolutely important to the process. Just this is a little snip. We take snips of every breakout room we make and we keep them. And the reason we do that is we want to curate the rooms. We want to make sure people aren't always with the same people. And you can't guarantee that if you just randomize your rooms in any online setting. So we snip everyone and we make sure they're mixing. And when you're in an online setting, we need to make sure that we're giving We're making sure there's sometimes when we're at the writing stage, a tech savvy person in each room. So we're making note of that as we go down when we meet people if they're confident in tech. So this curation of rooms is absolutely important in that online setting. Now, I'm just going to quickly talk about the workshop arc and whip through this in just a minute, and then I'll stop because I know I'm eating into time. So this is a model from a man called Sam Kainer. He wrote a book called Participatory Decision Making from America, and he talks about this diamond model of diverge, discussion, converge, and then you reach decision point. This workshop arc is absolutely what we lean into when we're designing. We need to decide, are we in one section of this? Are we going through all of it? And most workshops, we try and diverge, struggle a little, which is what they call the groan zone, and then converge and get to some point of resolution as far as we can in a process. There's a lot of different processes that we use in order to do that. There's things around research, making sure we've got diversity in the room, making sure we're exploring ideas in the first part. We talk about trade-offs and compromise. We might even in the middle bit do some clustering of ideas and then moving them forward. And then we do prioritization, choice making, narrowing things down in order for things to come to decision points. So all those facilitation tools package up in that model. Now, I just super fast wanted to say there is a smoosh happening between in-room and online. And we've kind of come up with a few models of how this could look. Some work and some don't. There's like 5 of them, and then I'll finish. The first is the weave, where you might do in-room first, then a bit of online, then in-room and online, so that, your whole process has moments where there's online and in the room, and that's part of the design process. So the weave is alive and well, I think, happening all the time. Floating heads, you saw a picture of that before, where you might have a few people who couldn't make it and they're a floating head in the room and you're kind of moving them around into small groups. This is a really hard process, but we do our best to make that work. We wouldn't recommend it. It's not our ideal setting. Fishbowl, where you might have people observing a conversation that's happening in the room. So they're outside, online, watching what's happening in the process. Another design possibility with the weave. The curveball, when you decide that, we're running an online process and suddenly you get 10 people who are in a boardroom on one screen. This is what we hate in our online workshop setting. We do not encourage the curveball. We're like, everyone's on separate screens. We're doing an online workshop. This is how it works. And finally, and last slide of all, is the train tracks. We love train tracks. So we are about to do this in just a few weeks, and we just did it last weekend, where what you've got is a cohort in the room and a cohort online. So we have an in-room facilitation team and an online facilitation team. And so you might do all your framing and plenary together, but then you have a separate set of breakout groups and processes that are happening when you're doing the conversations separately. So train tracks is lots of fun. I'm going to stop there. I'm like so over. I'm so sorry.
We're fine. We're just in time. Plus, you took on some questions already in between. All right. The floor is ours. We get to pick Nicole's brain for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Any questions? We can queue up. Feel free to unmute. We're a small group, so let's get the conversation flowing. Anything that piqued your curiosity and would like to learn more about?
I see you've got a couple of questions in there, Anna Maria. Shall I respond to those ones you asked?
So I do. Yeah, mine was related to the feedback frames.
Yeah, they're called feedback frames.
Okay.
They are made by a guy in Canada. You can just Google feedback frames. But you can create, like, if you don't want people to be anonymous, we create boards with a similar thing on them. So like a large scale template. But yes, they use tokens, and we haven't used them very much. But if you actually want people to not see what other people are voting on, these are really good because you're not getting that group think. People are putting in their feedback really according to how they like something, and then you see the results at the end.
All right, this is really fun. I found them, popped them in the chat. Okay, cool. great. Razan, I see, is typing. Any other questions? Sophia,
I've got a few
the
questions.
mic is going.
Right.
Okay, we're giving the mic to Sophia, Noor, and then it's you. And Razan, feel free to use the chat and we'll surface those as well. Sophia, got the mic.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Hi.
See if I can turn off this
We hear you.
camera. Finally, yes. Nicole, thank you very much for everything. Like, so much brain explosion. I was thinking a lot about the table thing that you said. I've always not liked very much table, but now that you like kind of gave a reason to it, it makes all sense. And one thing that I, as a facilitator, I always come across is the people are very attached to data and to content itself. And of course, I avoid as much as I can, like PowerPoint and that, you know, hours of talking and talking. And I was thinking and wondering, how do you deal with content, like technical content, instead of just putting up a PowerPoint and talking for one whole hour? How do you deal with that?
That's a great question. There are lots of ways. I'll give you two really good ways that we deal with them. I mean, there's lots of other ways too. I'm sure you've got ideas. But instead of presentations out, we use a process called speed dialogue, which is like speed dating, but better. And basically, it's people are in small clusters. And say, I don't know, you have 6 speakers, and instead of them up the front talking to everyone and everyone sitting back listening, we get the speakers spread around 6 groups, and they get a time period, like 15 minutes, to talk with 4 or 5 people, and they have a conversation. They ask them questions, and then they move. The speaker moves. So they just rotate around the room. So instead of it being a technical thing up front, they might have a little short paper, they said, you know, as in one pager that they might want to leave behind. But really, it's dialogue more than presentation. So that's one way. Another method is something we picked up from a guy called Thiagi. He is, if anyone knows Thiagi from the States, he's amazing, very big into games. So there's a process called Textra, which what we do is we say you've got a technical document and you can break it down into smaller pieces, and say there are 5 chunks to it that are like 3 or 4 pages long or something. You go, right, we're going to create a group of people, little small groups, and each different group deep dives into that one small section and becomes experts on that. Like you might give them 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you mix them all up. So you create new groups that are, which has got a person from each of those 5 sections. So now you've got the whole document represented in a small group, and they share their ideas about this is what we learned, this is what we heard, and then they go, wow, what does this whole document mean to us? So it's a great way of getting into data quickly without it being blah, blah, blah up the front of the room.
Amazing.
How was the second one called? Sorry. How was the second one called?
It's called, I'll put it in the chat.
Yes, I'm taking shared notes for us. I took the role of the scribe. Textra. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've heard, I think it's the same as jigsaw groups. Do you know if that's
nice? Don't know. Have not heard that name before.
Is it from training from the back of the room? Maybe it gives me that
I don't know.
vibe.
I know it from like
okay,
peer-to-peer learning. They have the jigsaw groups, which sounds very much similar. But nice to know about this name. I didn't know.
Yeah, great.
Okay, Sophia, anything else from you?
No, that's all. Thank you.
No.
Yeah, I put some of my questions in the chat already, but actually the most, also looking at the time as well, the one that I'm most interested in at the moment is so let's say that there's valuable ideas that kind of arise in certain groups. Do they spread? And if so, how do they spread?
Yeah. So the whole thing is about, you know, kind of mining the gold, for want of a better word, as you're going through a process. So we would always capture it in some way. So if we just finished a Textra process and people are in mixed groups, we're like, what are the key things we need to remember? Or what are the big solutions that are coming out of this document or something? We would capture those either in group map or on a hard copy template. And we'll, you know, kind of scoop them up and start theming them up on a wall so that we're not losing data as it starts, the gold, as the valuable ideas as they start to come out. So we are careful with the amount of data. We're not saying, give us every valuable idea you've got. We'll actually say, when you've done this piece of work, what are your 3 best valuable ideas? So that the group's doing the refining for us. We're not having to take 20 ideas from one group and then try and smoosh it with 20 ideas from every other group. So get people to be discerning about the amount of data they put forward.
Great, thank you.
I love your conflict questions. Conflicts are big. I love it. It's the thing I step into. So I'll go to Razan, and if we've got 2 seconds, I'll respond.
We still have 5 minutes. Let's go for it.
So Razan, did you want to come off mute, or shall I just read out your question? Read it out.
Read out.
So you're wondering what challenges we've encountered and how I react or solve them. In terms of just general facilitation, is that what that means? Or is it in particular in relation to feedback frames? I wasn't sure. Yes. Yes, general. I think that's general.
Yes.
Great. So what are the challenges? So like any group process, you can get people who come in with an agenda and are just trying to get that answer. You can get people come in who are angry and outraged at what's happened beforehand. Other challenges are simply people not contributing, being quiet, sitting back. Like the hardest bit, the most challenging thing I've had is a protest outside the room, and being in a room that was terribly bad for acoustics at the same time, and the people were angry. And I'm actually one of those strange people who really, it's just kind of answering Noah's question as well, who likes conflict because it's energy. People are energetic about something. And so how do I handle that? How do I react? I lean into it and I say, if there are protesters outside the room, please come in. We want to hear what you've got to say. We give people time to share their concerns. Like if there's outrage, you've just got to spend time hearing it. You've got to let the air out of the balloon and see if people are ready to hear anything about an issue. And that applies online as much as it does in the room. We did, when COVID first came in, we did a whole heap of debriefing. We had massive bushfires in Australia at the start of 2020. And right after that, we were doing debriefs with those communities, but had to do them online. And it's a really strange thing about online in that people tend to be calmer in an online setting. I think it's because you're not in the room and kind of getting that mob mentality. You're also at home in your slippers patting your dog. So there's a sense of calmness, happening. But there were tears. People were crying about what had happened to them. People were angry about not getting rescued and all sorts of things. But the same principles apply, giving people time to share and listening and paraphrasing that in a way that has them feel heard before you move on to what next. So I think conflict situations are really interesting and fun. Even they're hard work, but they're good. When somebody's quiet, if I'm dealing with quiet people in a room, then what we do is we do a lot of think, pair, share, which I'm sure you would have heard about, that individual think before you go into a group conversation, like build it up, build it up, build it up. Yeah.
All right. Empathy important in every context. I was just trying to take notes. Good stuff here. We could be sitting here for a little while longer to peek inside your brain, Nicole. Thank you so much. I'm sure you have some really interesting stories to share. I am left with this idea of information management. I absolutely love the clipboards ideas as a replacement for where you have like kind of all of the printables and everything, and everyone has everything at hand and you kind of move through them and then stick them on the walls. I loved that. and the feedback frame, and yeah, just loads of things I could ask you. But as we're approaching the end of the session, I have a quick checkout question for everyone in the room who took the time to be present and listen. One insight I am taking away into my work after all this food for thought and everything we've seen on slides and everything Nicole has shared with us. Put on some music in the back end. Feel free to add your thoughts inside the chat or inside the poll and submit them. We'll take a minute here before we say goodbye. The air in the balloon metaphor is very sticky. Outrage needs to be let out. Conflict can be good because it's energy. Take the time to deflate the balloon. Any energy can be good, put to good use and make the session more productive, including conflict. Texture process. So it sounds like a really interesting technique, something I want to try in the future. There we go. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in and spending 45 minutes with us. Thank you so much, Nicole, for preparing the session and hosting us today. It was amazing. Wish you all a beautiful rest of the day. Stay awesome and hope to see you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Take care. Bye, everyone.